I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. Swolekat joins us. Hi.
Hi.
Hey, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm Swolekat. I've been a VTuber for, like 4 years now. I mostly stream like a lot of retro games, but I also try to do a lot of chat interactivity with various bits of software and hardware sometimes. And I mostly stream on Twitch, but I've actually recently started also streaming on YouTube. I have a bunch of YouTube videos out there. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent. Appreciate you coming on. So when you got started like 4 years ago, so what brought you in then?
I mean, mostly the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like I'm a pandemic baby. It's kind of crazy because I don't think there's that many of us left. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like locked up, got nothing else to do. I was streaming to a couple of coworkers in Discord, and then I had the idea. I was like, oh, I'm already streaming. Like, why don't I just stream to Twitch? Because at the time I was also really into Pay Money Wubby. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's not a VTuber.
No.
But a friend had sent me his video about wrapping his car in like hentai art. And so he had this hook at the end of all his videos where it would be like, look at all the content that you're missing out on. And then he would show a clip of his stream, and eventually that got me into Twitch. So kind of had like these two ideas of like, oh, I'm just already like playing games to an audience. Plus I'm now familiar with this website. And that's how I started. I saw a really cringy Reddit post about how to be a VTuber.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, go get 3Teen, get a webcam, get OBS, and then off I went. So that's what I did.
Yeah. And well, I mean, was it easy for you to start once you had all the stuff?
Easy how?
Well, I mean, easy to. Was it comfortable for you when you turned the microphone on?
I mean, no. Not really. It's really funny. I've kind of like looked at some older streams and stuff like that, and I'm like, wow, I've gotten way better at public speaking from like doing this all the time.
Yeah.
So definitely did not have skills.
So basically, you dressed yourself up in a nice swimsuit and threw yourself into the deep part of the ocean.
Yeah. I don't know if what's gonna be on screen, but for those of you who don't know, like my VTuber avatar is a buff cat in a red Speedo. And that came about because I searched Vroid Hub. I was like everybody's an anime girl. I'll be something different. So I was like looking for different things on Vroid Hub because I was like, I don't know how to do this. I'm not gonna be able to make my own model. So I found the original one, which is basically, it's based on this swimmer, right? That's why the Speedo was.
Right.
But it's a Japanese like buff swimmer with a Speedo. And the person had just like replaced the skin textures with that of a cat and added some ears. And it's really funny too, because on that first model, you can see the bowl cut. Like it's literally just to replace the textures of the model with a cat, so it's really funny. But
a cat with a bowl cut.
I did that for like a year. It was crazy. I can't believe I stuck with that one for so long.
Hey, it worked. It worked. It worked with it, and once you got in and got going, I mean, you haven't stopped, right?
No, yeah, I have not had a single hiatus. I've been like remarkably consistent.
So you must have taken to it pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was like less serious like the first like year or whatever, but I also was like I didn't let myself spend any money on on anything. I was like, I'm not going, like, I don't want to spend a bunch of money if I don't know if I like it or not.
Right.
And so my rule was like, well, if I'm still doing it after a year, then I'll get a new model, and then I went off the deep end with various things and stuff. So yeah.
got got 5D technology.
Oh, I mean, I do full body tracking every stream,
Oh my. Uh,
and I also have like a haptic vest that people can play with. Um,
you really
yeah,
did
I
go
mean,
full out,
like,
didn't you?
oh yeah, it's nuts. Like it's kind of crazy. I look at other people who like only use the iPhone or just use a webcam, and I get jealous sometimes. I'm like, if I want to do anything, I gotta put the whole suit on. But you know, it's
Hey,
it's it's
you,
better, I think.
well, I mean, it's and now it's you can't go back. I mean, you're up there
Yeah.
now, and you've gone strong with it. How? I mean, you obviously when you started, I mean, did you even figure that you'd still be doing it 4 years later? Almost
No,
5 years?
no, I thought I would quit.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah,
I thought I would quit, but I just kept on going, so
yeah, yeah. It once you get in there and kind of got used to it and the interaction and everything, is the interacting with people what kept you going?
um yeah, I think that's like definitely part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I also like my day job is like being a developer,
Uh-huh.
and I don't get to work on like a lot of fun stuff anymore. So like being able to work on like fun ideas has been really like I don't know, like it's another way of like expressing myself. Also, just like learning how to make YouTube videos
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm still I still have a long way to go, but like oh, writing a script, researching topics, right?
Yeah,
Like I've got like a camera and I'm like oh, learning how to shoot like product photography and B-roll is like something I never thought I'd do.
yeah, yeah. B-roll. Oh my gosh, that's an old TV news term. I rem
That's what all the editing videos I watched
yeah,
tell me
yeah,
it's called. So I'm like, okay.
yeah. When I was back in radio, some of my television cohorts were talking about just going out and shooting B-roll footage for archives later, so they don't have to do it in the spur of the moment. That's taking me back when you had to edit tape with actual Scotch tape and that type of thing. That's real editing there, not this point and click stuff that all the kids are doing today. The
I mean, if you're in the dungeon, you're in the dungeon. I don't think it matters the technology.
yeah, yeah. Well, where do you think the phrase "leaving it on the editing on the floor" or "leaving a scene on the floor"? It comes from actually leaving the scene on the floor. You edit it out of the film, you just no place to put it, so it goes on the floor. Um, the cutting room floor. That's what I'm talking about. But it sounds like to me that you're really it almost fits you like a glove at this point. Am I right?
Um, yeah, I can't imagine not doing it now. So I think you're probably spot on.
Yeah. So you mentioned doing the games and the chat type of stuff. Um, what else would you like to do on the stream at this point?
um, it's hard because it's like a lot of. I feel like for doing it for so long, I've done like so much stuff. Because like some people are like, "Oh, you should do a cooking stream." It's like I did a cooking stream. I cannot cook in my stream. Last one I did, my breaker kept on flipping, and I eventually it broke, so I had to go get a new breaker.
Oh my gosh. Uh,
uh, so I don't know. I think like a lot of what I want to do in the future is maybe more related to like videos and stuff. I have a couple of ideas for series retrospectives.
mm,
I released one a couple of months ago for this series of Japanese train games called Densha de Go, and that took me 9 months, which was ridiculous. So probably gonna do another one of those, even though hopefully
yeah.
it won't take 9 months.
Oh my. Well, for folks
But
for folks who don't know,
good.
how hard would it be to put some? I mean, obviously it took 9 months, so it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. But how hard is it to take that material that you have and condense it and find the exact things you need to make a video like you were doing?
Yeah, so my video creation process, I almost always start with the script first.
Yeah.
And then I happen to try to gather stuff, I guess, as I go. For that one, I learned so much about like video production on that project because it's like an hour and 21 minutes long. So it's like a movie. I think it covers like 40 some odd games.
Yeah.
But it was like a lot of it was like writing the scripts, like playing the games, trying to collect my thoughts on what I wanted to talk about each time. And it was really helpful to go more just like, okay, I got the script, I recorded the vocal takes, I chop them up into sections, and then I can just focus on editing the section. Obviously, I have the gameplay footage from when I did stuff. I had to shoot some B-roll for like the covers for the case. Is I did have like the controllers is a big thing about that stuff. So like making sure to show off the controllers. All that other stuff. I like it takes a while, but it's always gonna like be dependent on your video and your process and how distracted by other things you get. And I got really distracted, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, with that, was it easy to choose the exact right clips you wanted to use?
Um, I think yeah, I don't think it was too bad because the number one rule of video making that people have beat into me is like you want to show not tell. So it's like, okay, if you're talking about this, go find where you're doing it. If you can't find where you're doing it, boot up the game and go and make it happen after the fact. But most of the time it's just like, oh, okay, like yeah, I'm talking about this, okay, let me go in and find it. Thankfully, because it was like I knew I was going to cover so many games, I only had like an hour or two of footage for each game.
Yeah.
So it was easy to find what I was looking for. But
that's still different than having to go through 4-hour long playthroughs to find the 30-second clip you're looking for.
oh yeah, I mean, I don't know how people do that because I'm like I don't have enough time or patience because it's like I'll just press the clip button, and then if it worked, great. If it didn't work, it wasn't meant to be.
Well, I mean, it's a giant help, though. I mean, to have a technology like that available.
Oh, for sure.
But still getting it right once if you're trying to remember something and you play it back and it's not quite as funny or catchy as you remember, did you have that happen and did that throw you off?
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes where it's like, oh well, I can't find the thing, and I like ultimately if it doesn't serve the video, then it doesn't make it in, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, oh yeah, okay. Like I go through this a lot when I'm trying to make all my like shorts.
Yeah.
Is I'll like look at the clip and I'm like, is this really funny? Like, is this really good? And like, I throw like half of them out at least, where it's like, oh no, this was like a mistake, or like, it's not really that funny without like all this added context, and I don't have that much time to like explain the joke, so just like leave it.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I mean, I always trying to do some sort of shorts or something to advertise the channel on whether it's TikTok or YouTube or whatever. But if it doesn't have the setup, the punchline by itself isn't going to make any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you really have to make sure that it can really stand on its own, and I think like that's the interesting thing about like people who are like really 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 good at it. I think everybody knows like pirate software being kind of amazing at it, but apparently like on his stream he'll just like stop everything if he has something and he wants to stay, like kill the audio, and then he'll just like do it, and then he'll make sure it's in 60 seconds, then he'll clip it, and then have his editors work on it, which I think is really interesting. I'm definitely not at that point. But
yeah, it's nice to have editors that'll do things for you, and
I can only imagine.
Yeah. It's something that we certainly didn't have in the radio biz, in the small markets. In the more large markets, I imagine they do. But when they give you an entire ball game and they say, here's a 3-hour football game, condense it to 30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
That
There's a big difference there in handling it yourself. So, what types of games are you streaming at the moment?
I'm doing a lot of like I do a lot of retro games, but right now I'm doing a couple like visual novels that aren't necessarily super duper retro.
Mm,
Doing the Tsukihime remake, which is the visual novel series that's most notably known for like Neko Arc, which
okay,
is a huge meme,
right.
and then 428 Shibuya Scramble. I'm also trying to do this thing where I play fan translations for older games, and
Okay,
I'm just going system by system
yeah,
so
yeah.
that I can cut the gameplay up for that and put that out as a video. Which I did that once and it was very successful, but then I got derailed by the train video.
Yeah.
So now I'm back to it.
Then 9 months later.
Yeah.
We just put that up in the SpongeBob font. 9 months later. Um, it's, but when it sounds to me like you're a bit. Are you a perfectionist when it comes to these things?
Uh no, I don't think so. Like I like having stuff be out,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of the time when I want to be a perfectionist, I'm just like, all right, let me sleep on it and be like, okay, is this good enough, right? Like because I think you learn a lot more if you do more projects as opposed to have like one project that's like really 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 good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. I mean, but you don't have the thing, especially when you're doing the clip things, where you just want to have everything fit perfectly like a tight jigsaw puzzle.
No, I like I do so many shorts that I just like I only spend like 5 to 15 minutes on each one because I have, to be fair, I have like a lot of presets and stuff that I use to just kind of already like line it up. I'm like, okay, it's lined up. But I usually have so many to do. I think I do them in batches so that I don't have to think about them all that much.
Yeah.
And I think the last batch I did like 200 in a week or something crazy like that.
Yeah. It's people get on me a little bit because I do a lot of interviews a week, and I'm like, well, I've got a I've got a way to do it. If I had to do a whole lot of work on it every single interview, I wouldn't have as many out. I'll tell you that. There's a sequence, a system. There's shortcuts. There's cheats. If win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. Sometimes the cheats work, and you can still get the program out without losing the quality of it. Thankfully, I don't have much quality, so I don't have to sacrifice that when I'm doing these things. But video is a lot different than just audio. Um, do you find that frustrating sometimes to get the video to match the audio?
Um, so usually I don't have like, especially for shorts and stuff like that. It's like it's just the stream clip,
Mm,
so it's like there's no like mismatch there. I mean, I think like looking for music for sections of videos can be kind of hard.
mm.
Um, I've been real lucky lately because I've been like, oh yeah, all these all these trade games I did, they had pretty decent soundtracks. Let me just grab from them.
Yeah,
Or I'll be like, oh, I think, this kind of game had a soundtrack that had kind of the vibe I'm looking for. Let me just go through that OST or something like that. I
yeah.
also have a huge folder of music that like I can go through
Hmm.
to just like grab stuff. And for shorts, it's actually really funny. If I do feel like it needs music, um, there's I actually got a lot of ringtones.
Yeah,
Not like old ringtones, but like ones that are just kind of a little bit newer so they don't sound like ringtony, but it's like it's a short bit of music that
yeah,
is designed to kind of get your attention.
yeah.
It fits
Interludes,
perfect.
like kind of interlude music in a way.
Yeah.
That's just it. I had to change all my old phones, all my cell phone stuff to just regular phone ringing because I couldn't tell. First of all, everybody had the same ringtone sound, and there was the same song playing over and over again. And I'm like, that's not a ring. I want my phone to ring. And I'm an old man. I want my phone to ring. Okay, So it really does stand out in the crowd instead of something like that. But now with something like that, are you okay with copyright stuff?
I tend to like I don't want to use like anything that'll get me like DMCA'd.
Yeah,
So like mostly I'll stick to like video game stuff.
yeah.
For the shorts for the ringtones, it's like those companies do not care. So I'm just like, it's fine. I'm kind of more, I guess, a little bit on the grayer side where it's like, well, it's, if I want to use a clip or something or some joke that somebody said weird or whatever, like
Yeah,
I'm just gonna like overlay it on top and it'll be fine. But
yeah.
I don't know, like some of these corporations I think are really crazy, and this is kind of like an only a way to fight back a little bit sometimes, you know?
Oh yeah, and then you never know what they're going to do with it. I mean, you could you could have somebody have it on their website for 5 years, and then you use it once, and they hit you with it with the DMCA. Like, come on, guys. I mean, play fair here. If you hit everybody, if you're going to hit somebody, um, but they'll go after the little guy first. This After 4 years, do you consider yourself a little guy or a big guy when it comes to this game?
Um, I think a lot of people when they think about that is like, well, am I a partner, right?
Right.
Where I think like it's kind of a huge gradient. I think you could still be doing it for a million years, right? And still be like a little guy.
Yeah.
It's I'm definitely not like new, right? Like I'm not because I think the first couple of years I was new and like didn't really know what I wanted to do and stuff like that. I still don't fully know what I want to do. Um and so, it's like maybe stuff hasn't clicked yet, but I'm just gonna keep at it and hopefully it will eventually.
Well, I mean,
So yeah, I guess I still think I'm small.
but with that, you've gained a group of folks that come back, right? And are coming back to
Yeah.
to be with you after this time. To have that type of an audience, how does that make you feel?
I mean it's good. I mean there are people who come back, but there's also a lot of people who, like have moved on,
Mhm.
which can feel sad, but it's like it just kind of happens. People grow apart. So, and I've also like done a lot of different types of content. I used to do like Smash Brothers Melee. I was a Melee streamer,
Hmm.
and then I was like not having super fun with that, and I moved on to another thing and wasn't having super fun with that, and
Hmm.
so I've kind of had the like audience death a couple times.
Hmm.
But I mean, I am happy that like where I'm at, like with the people who choose to spend time with me, that's yeah, I'm very thankful for those people.
So when you started getting folks coming back, did you kind of realize then that you were becoming a part of these people's lives?
I try to think about that a lot, and I think, uh, it's like a lot of time it's like some people are like, oh, I can't sub or whatever, and it's like you're already spending time with me, so I'm more than happy, and I try to make sure if I do something, it's like respectful
Mm,
of that time. If I make a video, I want to make sure like it's not just like garbage. It's like worth watching
yeah.
because people are giving me something that's really precious, right?
Well, yeah. They're 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 making a schedule specifically to be with you, and whether it's as background or whether they're commenting on every single thing you do in a game or participating in a chat, um, does that come with for you with a sense of responsibility for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Like, like yeah, I mean, like I want to make sure that people have a good time and stuff,
yeah,
and sometimes that means taking care of people who aren't aren't so nice and stuff like that,
yeah.
like being a bit protective about it,
Well,
trying to make sure there's no, bots in the Discord that are gonna do you want a commission, that sort of thing.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's super important to think about.
So how do you deal with it with when you get somebody coming in, obviously a bot or somebody coming in, and all of a sudden it's boy, I have a. Does anybody need any art stuff done? I've got a sale
I
going on.
I just ban them.
Just just
Like
just click. Yeah,
it's they don't pass the vibe check
yeah,
later. I mean, if it's somebody who's like in the community and has been there and like we know they're a real person, like
yeah,
that's fine. But if it's just like out of nowhere, it's like see ya.
yeah,
Like don't need it.
yeah, yeah. There's plenty of other places you can go and ruin people's lives. Go right ahead, or just hit up the DMs and screw it up that way. That's pretty good. I have to go on with to the things every once in a while, the Twitter and Blue Sky, and just play the look. I'm not a VTuber. Art doesn't help me that much. um, Sorry. I can point out a few VTubers. Maybe you can help them, and you're gonna throw everybody else under the bus. But um, it's
Thanks.
hey, you've got a trigger finger. You can take care of it. But having that type of control and having that type of respect for your chat, um, did that come naturally, or was it something that you kind of had to teach yourself?
I think especially like when you're small, it's like if you get any sort of attention at all, you're like super jazzed about. So I think like it's hard for like everybody to be like, oh, like actually like this person is in my chat and they're kind of whether intentionally or not intentionally, kind of like making stuff worse for others. Uh but you're like, but like I kind of like they always show up and you know like especially if like they donate or whatever you're like but it's just in the long run I generally think it's not worth it.
Hey, I gave you $2. I should be able to insult anybody I want.
Yeah, I like that's the thing when you look at it rationally you're like yeah this doesn't make any sense but like on on the on the other side when you're just kind of new to it you're like I don't know that seems kind of rude to like you know
Yeah,
take
yeah,
the money and then immediately ban them or something like that.
yeah. I mean, it does seem that way, but then it also can be fun if you if you do it the right way.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
the stuff that you're doing online. I mean, obviously you've kind of you've honed it down to what you want to do. Um, we're not going to probably see any more cooking streams since you tried to set your house on fire. Um, is there any types of different collaborations you'd like to try?
Uh, so I think like networking and collaborations is kind of like an area where I'm a bit weaker,
Uh-huh.
due to I don't know, just like I guess who I am as a person. Like, uh, so that's like something I definitely need to improve on. Like, but I think it's just like trying to find new people who are kind of down, to do stuff. It's been kind of hard because it's like, oh, I'm a retro streamer. It's like, okay, well, what's a retro co-op game? And it's like, now I have to like find one, and it's kind of rough. Where I think for people who are just like, oh yeah, I'm a Fortnite streamer, it's like, oh, you guys want to collab? Oh, okay, we're gonna be playing Fortnite,
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean,
It's already
yeah, I
done
mean,
and dusted.
no, I mean, Fortnite's old enough now where it can be a retro game.
uh, I in a way, sorry, I might have been a little mean. Uh, I mean, in a way, yes, but in a way, it's like I'm talking about like stuff from the '80s and
Yeah,
'90s and like 2000s is
yeah,
kind of like more up my alley.
yeah. Well, what is the oldest retro game that you enjoy playing?
Um, so it's really funny because when I was like in college, I was playing like a lot of NES games, a lot
Hmm.
of Super Nintendo and Genesis games,
Hmm.
and I think it's because I played like a lot of those games like so long ago, and I played a bunch of them that I'm actually more interested in like playing like games that are new to me from like the PS1, uh, Sega Saturn kind of era.
Hmm.
Like I've been having a lot of good time. I'm trying to remember what was the last. I'm lost without my schedule.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
um, and I do so many different things that I get confused. Give me a second.
yeah. I do that too.
Oh yeah, I've
But
been playing like a lot of the Sonic games, so it's
yeah,
been cool to play that from different eras.
yeah.
I have a friend who throws a like online festival called the Festival of Ages. So been playing a lot of like Sega games from like that kind of era, which has been really cool to just discover how that franchise has grown and changed.
Mm, yeah. Well, play the old Sega Genesis games.
Yeah. I played. I think I played Sonic 1, 2, and 3
Mm,
this past year, so that was
yeah.
pretty cool.
Now you're definitely going old school with that.
Yeah, but like, it's weird because I feel like the some of the older games are like too hard for me to like really be excited for like the stream because I'm just bashing my head against a wall like, oh, why am I not landing this and stuff like that.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
Well, for one
that's
thing,
why I don't focus on the era so much.
we're thinking about getting the grandson a one of those Atari 2600 uh 25,001 type games. You buy at the store these
Hmm.
days. Um, and I'm wondering whether he'll be able to play it because there's only one button, one button and a joystick. I mean, he's not going to know which one's the shoot, which one's the jump, which one. It was too simple back then for a lot of kids now.
Yeah, I think the thing that one of the things that I really like about games is like different stories and stuff. And I don't necessarily like want to go as that direction as like some of the newer games are, but
Hmm.
I think it's also like, okay, well, what am I looking at with an Atari? I've never been like had a real desire like, oh, I want to go do the 2600. I'm sure there's like fun to be had, but I'm just like, oh man, I do there's a limit for me there.
It's so basic, and that it's too basic for some folks. I really would like to see. I've said this before. I would like to see some of the top gamers have a Pong tournament, and with just not the only controller that would be the round one where you move back and forth, and see whether
Yeah,
anybody
the
could
paddle.
actually figure out how to do it. It's
I
maybe
mean,
I mean that it's so simple, and yet people are so used to having controllers now with buttons on every finger that I don't know whether people will be able to do it these days.
I think I think the paddle stuff is like I think like separate controllers is actually like really interesting. That's
Hmm.
like one of the reasons why I dove into the like train game
Hmm.
thing so much is because like all of the games have their own controllers. So I don't know. I feel like they'd be able to, like Pong's not that crazy, but it's like it's so weird because there's just like so much stuff out there now. It's like, oh yeah, like don't get me wrong. I'm sure back in the 70s when it got released, people were like, whoa, this is insane. But it's just like,
It was.
it's like watching silent movies.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes in the places that had the Pong, you still had silent movies playing.
Oh, really?
In the old pizza places, they'd run old silent movies. Uh,
That's
but
cool.
but the biggest thing about Pong was when Pong 2 came out, and you could have two people playing in the arcade instead of just one on each side. So suddenly it was a bigger game. And that was having two guys on one side was a big deal at the time. Uh, Nowadays it's you're waiting for the DLC and it's going to be $60 and and you're not getting the new game. You're getting the game with something added to it. Uh, would you rather have a game since you do a lot of the retro games? Would you rather see a game come out completely new, or have a game develop something that adds to the original game instead of a new concept? Which would you rather have?
I think generally it's like I want to have I I feel like there's more games than ever, but like fewer and fewer IPs.
Hmm.
Like, and I think a big problem that I see is like development is almost always like a 5 year endeavor now.
Hmm.
And it's like I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but it's like I kind of almost I wish we were back in the days when like Bomberman was a yearly franchise. I know
Bomberman
it's like
12.
how much can you add to Bomberman, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I think that I really miss seeing smaller scale games that have like a level of polish that the AAA studios made, because they would make a game that they would only have a year to make it, but it would be on the level of something like I don't know, like a Stardew Valley, right?
Yeah.
And so we have these extremes where it's like it's either one dev or it's this massive team, and it doesn't really matter. Like they're gonna take 5 years to make a game. So I think a lot of the games that people liked when growing up, like they didn't take as long to develop as they do now. And yeah, I think you're obviously not going to have like something like Minecraft or whatever, but I think some of these like simpler games with, different ideas is something that I miss about gaming, which is why I play the old games.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something to be said for it, and it, it doesn't necessarily have to be super complicated and drawn out. It's something you enjoy. I liken it to watching movies. I mean, I went to see Transformers 2. I didn't go to see the plot. I went to see things blow up. If I'm playing a certain game, I'm not watching it for. I'm not playing the game because it has a plot that's going to keep me going for 3 years and make me frustrated, because I'm just there to blow things up. Sometimes that's all you need to do.
Yeah, one video idea that I want to make is, and I'm not sure if you're aware of it, is these series of games from Japan called the Simple series. The most famous one out of like all of the Simple series, which ended up going to be its own franchise, was Earth Defense Force.
Mm-hmm.
But their idea was like these were all like budget price games for the PS1 and PS2.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually called like the Simple 2000 series because it cost you 2,000 yen to buy for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
But it's just like really, really kind of, simple games, and they would like reuse assets and a bunch of other stuff. So It's like really fascinating to see, where it's like, yeah, you don't need to go absolutely crazy on every single game. Don't get me wrong. I think there's still a place for like the big ultra blockbusters that take hundreds of hours to complete, but there's tons of space out there for a game like EDF, where you just you just go around and you're blowing up bugs, and like you're not there for the story or anything like that. You have a little bit of progression. You're just there to just kind of like vibe with your friends, or just by yourself.
Absolutely. Heck, I remember when that Goose game came out a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I mean that's not the most complicated game in the world, but people loved playing it, so they bought it and played it. It's sometimes it's not rocket surgery or brain science. It's just put down something that people enjoy, and maybe we lost that a little bit in the gameplay. But I've certainly enjoyed talking with you all this time, and I want to have you back soon so we can talk some more. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Just send me a DM and we'll get something worked out.
Swolekat, and we'll have all the descriptions and links to what Swolekat's got going on in the description for the video. Thank you so much for coming on with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.